What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of news to go over this week, of course, and the first story here is Aston Martin. They have two reveals actually. The first is they've revealed the design for the 2020 Vantage Roadster, and it looks so good to me. We only have a few pictures here in this matte black wrap, but it's not camouflage or anything, so we can see very clearly. It says it's going to be available next spring and looks very nice. I think, it looks similar to the F-Type to me a little bit, but that's a very good thing. I think that is such a good looking convertible. Does have a soft top just like the DB11 Volante does, so not a power hard top like some of the others out there, but still looks so good, and it'll probably be a little lighter with that cloth top too. Mechanically it's going to be probably identical to the Coupe, of course, which is totally fine. The Vantage just continues to get better and better with each new model that rolls out. First it was the manual and the AMR version, now we have the convertible, and I'm sure there's lots of other cool additions to come as well, so cool to see that. Aston Martin also revealed the DBS GT Zagato, which is this super rare version. Only 19 are being made, so I'm not going to get into it too much because it's, none of us will ever even see one in person probably. But the one noteworthy thing here is that it's the most powerful version of that twin-turbo V12 from the DBS Superleggera, which also, a little side note this week, was announced to be one of the new Bond cars in the new Bond movie coming out next year, No Time to Die. So that's a very exciting little development as well, because I was thinking they would use the DB10 again for the new Bond movie. But anyway, back to this GT Zagato. It has 45 more horsepower than that DBS Superleggera, so now that twin-turbo V12 does 760 horsepower. And although it's just for this rare limited edition version, it does hint at what the potential is for this engine, and I'm sure we'll see that higher output in some future version of this DBS Superleggera possibly, or some other model, who knows. But anyway, awesome to see that. BMW has done another reveal this week for another M model. Last week it was the X5M and X6M. This week we have the M8 Gran Coupe. And so it's the same mechanicals as the others, meaning they all get the 600 horsepower twin turbo 4.4 liter V8 engine, and it goes up to 617 horsepower in the competition version, which was also revealed here. 553 pound-feet of torque from that engine in both models. And in addition to being much better looking than the SUVs in my opinion, it's also faster, basically keeping up with the M5 with a 3-second flat 0 to 60 time for the competition version, 3.1 for the standard one. They all have an 8-speed automatic and a rear biased all-wheel drive system that's standard. It also has a drift mode like the M5, and so with stability control completely turned off, it goes full rear wheel drive. So a very sporty all-wheel drive system, and so that's cool. It's also, obviously very big and luxurious there on the interior, but they did try to trim out a little bit of weight in a few areas, like it has a carbon fiber roof, and most of the body panels are being made out of aluminum now, and the trunk lid is actually like a composite plastic type of material, and so that's interesting. The competition models, they also get a dual mode exhaust, and I'm surprised that you can't get that on a normal M8, but I'm guessing there's got to be some kind of customization, because even like non-M models like the M40i versions and stuff have an active exhaust, so hopefully that's an option for the regular M8 as well. But anyway, production starts in November for these, with the standard M8 Gran Coupe starting at $130,995, and the competition version going up $13,000 more for that 17 more horsepower to $143,995 for its price. And it's expensive, very expensive, but strangely, it's actually $3,000 cheaper than the M8 Coupe. Even though you have less materials being used in the Coupe and everything, doesn't really make much sense, but that is the pricing. So anyway, interesting to see that. And Volkswagen this week has teased the Mark 8 Golf that's going to be revealed here. And they announced the reveal is going to happen on October 24th, which is right in the middle of the Tokyo Motor Show, which also doesn't make much sense considering this reveal is going to be happening in Germany. So they're going to try and steal the limelight from some of the Japanese stuff. We'll see how that works out for them. But anyway, this sketch here makes it look very similar to the uncamouflaged Mark 8 Golfs we've already seen spied running around throughout this past year. The design is really no secret at this point. But, it looks like it's going to be pretty nice looking. We do get a new look at the interior, though. And previously it looked like it was going to be a little more, unstylish. And now it looks like it's got some some BMW inspiration, especially in that infotainment screen, the way it's kind of cut off there at the one corner. And so yeah, we'll have to wait until October 24th for all the details there on the Mark 8 Golf. But anyway, interesting to see that. Volkswagen has also revealed a new R logo here that they're going to be having on future models, both as R-line vehicles and on full-on R models. So I hope they do some kind of differentiation, because it looks okay, but it's just, putting this same badge on everything, whether it's an R or an R-line, seems kind of strange. And the first application of this R-line badge is the 2020 Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport, which Volkswagen just revealed at the end of this week here. And as you can see, it's obviously still based on the standard Atlas and has the same wheelbase, but the body is 2.8 inches shorter to go along with the sportier look. And both in the rear cargo area, you can see it's got the steeper rake to the rear window there, but also the whole front end and the back end are more muscular looking than a regular Atlas. You also have different headlights and taillights. So, it's actually a lot more different than a standard Atlas than I was expecting, honestly. I thought it was just going to have the sportier roof line and that's about it. But it's actually looks a good bit different in my opinion, which is kind of cool. Looks a lot like the concept. On the inside, the changes are much more minor though, with just a new steering wheel being the only change up front. In the back though, you actually get almost 3 inches more space in this two-row version as far as legroom goes, so that's kind of cool. But cargo space is compromised, predictably. And so if you compare this with a regular Atlas with its third row folded down, so that they're both two-row vehicles, you end up in the regular Atlas having 55.5 cubic inches of space, and the Cross Sport only has 40.3, so you're down about 15 cubic feet. But of course, if you do want to fold down the second row, then things get a little bit closer. It's just because you have less cargo space with that, more aggressive rear rake to the window there. Engine-wise, it's the same V6 and Turbo 4 as the standard Atlas, and both engines are available with either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And so these are going to be coming here the spring of 2020, but we don't have any pricing yet for those. Another vehicle. So, last week there was the reveal of the C8R Corvette race car, and so Chevy, gave us a few sound clips and a teaser video of what it sounds like, and people that were actually at the event heard it kind of revving as it was coming out, and they said it sounded very unique, different than the normal Corvette engine. And so they did confirm, Chevy gave some details on the engine this week. They said it's unique to this racing version, of course. It's a 5.5 liter V8 engine that does 500 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. So it's not much more power than, it's basically almost identical to the power output of the regular V8 and the regular C8 Corvette, just a very different setup. And they didn't give any official details, but Bozy Tatarovic from Jalopnik is reporting that it's also a flat plane crank engine, which makes sense given the sound that was shown. And it also has double overhead cams, according to him. So that's why it has, the higher pitched sound and everything. And it's a lot of a higher revving engine for the race application versus, again, just the older engine you have in the standard new Corvette. Jalopnik also speculates this engine could be adapted for production in a normal Corvette. And so there's been rumors that this could be the engine, or a variation of this engine could come for a Grand Sport model. We've heard rumors and patents of flat plane Corvettes in the past, but that could all just be related to the race car and have nothing to do with the production version. We'll have to wait and see what develops with the Corvette pipeline here, and what models come down the road. But anyway, very cool to at least get some more details on that race engine and the potential it has. But in some other C8 news, the union strike's currently going on with GM, and I don't really talk about strikes or recalls or anything like that, because some of that kind of stuff can go towards the political end of the spectrum. I don't want to ever weigh in on politics on this channel. So I'm just going to say the strike is going on still, and GM has stopped production of all their vehicles in the United States here because they don't have any workers, of course, and so they can't keep production going. And so obviously relating to the C8, this could pose a problem. And so that's been the story that's been running around this week. The Detroit Free Press is the first outlet that put this out here. They're reporting that Chevy was supposed to finish production of the C7 last week, but they never did because of the strike. So there are still C7s waiting to be built, the last few before they switch over to the C8 production. And you might be thinking, well, that's fine. They weren't supposed to start building C8s till like December or something, so they have time. But the problem is that they still need to finish building those C7s and then retool the plant, which is going to take several weeks, and then start on, the pre-production C8s and all that kind of stuff, and then ramp up to the production ones, which all that kind of stuff takes several months. to then get to the point of building customer orders in December, and that was the original plan. So it's almost certainly delayed because we're already a couple weeks behind because of the strike. How much more delayed, remains to be seen as far as how long the strike continues. But until the strike's resolved, I don't think there's going to be obviously any production of any GM vehicles, at least here in the States. And so that could be a problem for potential C8 orders. And, I'm sure the people that live in warm, sunny places will be annoyed they can't get their Corvette in January. But for all of us here on the East Coast, if there's a 4-month delay, who cares? Because no one will be able to drive them until April anyway. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But, everyone wants to see the C8 be produced, and so hopefully, things can get worked out so that production can resume soon. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. In some other Chevy news, though, the 2020 Chevy Colorado was given a refreshed exterior here that was shown for the first time, but we've only seen the ZR2 trim so far, so we'll have to see what changes the other ones get. But for the ZR2, it does get this larger grille that seems to be inspired by the new Camaro front end, even though they had to do an emergency refresh there on the Camaro. It seems to have that, it's just a huge blank space of black, and you have the Chevy logo there and in bold lettering across the front, which is kind of cool. It just seems a little blank still, like a car without a nose or something to me. But anyway, that's what they decided to do. In the back, I do like the new tailgate there, which does have Chevrolet stamped in the back of it, similar to the Silverado and stuff. I think that's a very nice improvement. But the lights are still the same from 2014 or 15, whenever those debuted originally. So, it doesn't seem super fresh still, unfortunately, and there wasn't any pictures of the interior shown, so we have no clue if that's been given any attention. I hope so, but not too optimistic. We'll have to see. But anyway, they're going to be on sale next year, and I'm sure we'll be getting more details on the other versions and stuff down the road. For some good Chevy news this week, though, actually GM stuff, Cadillac has revealed pricing for the CT4 and the CT4-V. And I just mentioned recently how I hope they price this vehicle well, because if they do, it could be really great. If they don't, then it could just be, a continuing downward trend for Cadillac sedans. But I'm happy to report here, the base CT4 is going to be starting at only $33,990, including destination. So again, this is a replacement for the ATS. All-wheel drive on those lower trims is $2,600. Otherwise, it's going to be rear-wheel drive based, but that $2,600, in addition to giving you all-wheel drive, is also bundled with heated front seats and a heated steering wheel, though, on some of those lower models. On the V, where it's standard, the upcharge for all-wheel drive is only $1,100, so that is more reasonable for adding an all-wheel drive system. The CT4-V, by the way, starts at $45,490, and again, can go up from there with options, but they are fairly well equipped for the V version already. And so, to me, that's not too bad. For a car with 325 horsepower, 380 pound-feet of torque, to be, basically $5,000 more than a Golf R and have way more power, and even like the Audi S3, which I'll get to in a second, it still is only a 4-cylinder, but I mean, all the other competitors have 4 cylinders. The A35 coming from Mercedes is going to be a pumped up 4-cylinder and stuff. So very competitive with the rest and way more power. I mean, the A-Class Mercedes, by the way, also starts at about $33,000. We're right in that same area, and honestly, I think the Cadillac might be a little more refined, because the A-Class runs a dual clutch versus this has the 10-speed automatic with a real torque converter. Also, the Mercedes and the Audi and all those are front-wheel drive based. This is rear-wheel drive based, so I think this really will be the enthusiast choice. But it does mean if you live in a snowy place, you have to basically get all-wheel drive versus the competitors. Some people might be able to get by with front-wheel drive. But otherwise, like the Audi A3 is also over $34,000, so it's actually undercutting the Audi a little bit. And a CLA, like the new CLA, we found out it's going to be $37,000 even just for the front-wheel drive version. So Cadillac comes in underneath that as well. So I think they actually finally priced the Cadillac competitively, aside from the previous Vs were a bargain as well. But normal Cadillacs seem to always be a little overpriced. Now I think the pricing is makes a lot more sense. And the S3 from Audi actually is $45,500 exactly. So exactly like the CT4-V. Identical pricing, and the S3 has 35 less horsepower, and the Cadillac here, in addition to having more horsepower, has 100 more pound-feet of torque. You got 280 pound-feet of torque in that Audi S3, 380 torque in the Cadillac. So this is going to feel much, much faster when you stomp on it over something like an S3 for the same money. So, the CT4 is starting to look a whole lot more appealing now that they gave it a good price, and I'm very excited about that because I really actually want Cadillac to do well. And also with the Cadillac, that you can get Super Cruise, which is truly hands-free driving, which even Tesla can't currently offer. And so to have that, something that the Germans don't offer, I think is another real feather in the cap of the Cadillac. So hopefully Cadillac actually markets this vehicle so people know it exists, and then maybe it can actually be the start of a turnaround for Cadillac sedans. We'll have to wait and see. But very, very interesting. I'm actually excited. I think it's the most exciting story of the week for me, honestly. Other stuff here. Toyota has a couple of reveals this week. First is the 2021 RAV4 is going to be getting a plug-in hybrid version, but so far they only revealed this one picture showing slight changes to the front bumper there and a new color called Supersonic Red. Otherwise, we don't have any mechanical details, but Toyota has teased that it's going to be the most powerful RAV4 yet and that it will be celebrated for its acceleration. And so we'll have to see just how punchy it is. But, you know, for example, the new Ford Escape plug-in hybrid is the fastest version out of the other hybrid and normal versions of the Escape. So, that's competitive with that vehicle, which is also coming next year. But anyway, more details and the full reveal of the plug-in hybrid RAV4 will be coming at the LA Auto Show next month. So cool to see that, though. But the big Toyota news this week is they did a full reveal here on the 2021 Toyota Mirai. And so it still is only a hydrogen car. So there's no other variants like there are with Honda and some of the other vehicles, but it looks very dramatic, as you can see. I'm personally not in love with the looks yet. To me, it seems like a stretched out version of the new Prius headlights with a grille from the Avalon. I think the side profile and the back look fantastic, but that front is kind of bold to me. You have to let me know in the comments what you think of it. But it does look very upmarket and, could actually pass for a Lexus, I think, in many ways. Very, very nice looking, as far as a luxury standpoint goes. It's also much bigger, too, with a body that's 3.3 inches longer and a platform that's 5.5 inches longer. It's also almost 3 inches wider and 3 inches lower, too. So, I mean, those are big changes. Usually when cars get a change, it's, an inch here, an inch and a half there. So to be talking about 3 inches, 5 inches left and right, I mean, this is a really dramatic change. They really want to make the new Mirai more upmarket, I guess, to compete with Tesla and stuff like that a little bit more. It's also rear-wheel drive now instead of front-wheel drive, which is another massive change for the Mirai. And so, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. It's actually on the same platform now as the Lexus LC500 and the Lexus LS. So, pretty impressive. They really pulled out all the stops for this new Mirai. There's no details on the batteries or the powertrain for it yet, but Toyota says they're targeting a 30% improvement in driving range thanks to a greater amount of hydrogen capacity. And so, the current Mirai can already do 312 miles on a tank of hydrogen, so expect it to be a good bit more than that, probably even getting close to maybe 400. We'll have to see. The interior looks similar to new Lexus and Toyota models, but does have a new 12.3-inch touchscreen, which is a nice improvement there. And there's going to be more info at the Tokyo Motor Show in 2 weeks, so hopefully we'll get the powertrain details there. But again, the Mirai, because of the limited hydrogen network, is only sold in California currently. They're trying to work on some markets in the East Coast, but it's just so hard to find hydrogen that they're still going to sell very few of these, no matter how much people love them, and even if it is a huge hit. But, anyway, interesting to see that, and I commend Toyota for still pursuing the hydrogen thing, because I think that is a very interesting technology that does have a lot of promise. Lastly, one thing that sadly does not have much promise is Dyson and their electric car. Dyson as a company seems fine, but they were working on an electric car, and like many other companies, it's just so expensive, and they have officially canceled their plans to do an electric car. So The Verge actually obtained an email to staff members here saying, "The Dyson Automotive team has developed a fantastic car. They have been ingenious in their approach while remaining faithful to our philosophies. However, though we have tried very hard throughout the development process, we simply can no longer see a way to make it commercially viable." And so, it's kind of a bummer. I am actually kind of hoping that maybe an actual car company partners up with them or kind of bails them out. If Dyson has already done a lot of the development, we already saw patent images of what it's going to look like, or, a rough sketch of what it could be like. If a car company that needs to do an electric thing can come in and work with them, it could really help some smaller company that doesn't have an electric architecture yet to maybe, you know, they can share the cost or something so that Dyson doesn't have to give up on their dream of, you know, doing an electric car. But, you know, it's tough. Even with, you know, we've seen Faraday Futures kind of flopped, and some other companies are just struggling to get off the ground. And even Tesla struggles to make money. So, I mean, it's just so extremely expensive, and the infrastructure makes it tough and everything. It's tough to do electric cars, and I'm sure this won't be the last time we hear about an electric car company or an electric car getting killed off. Fisker seems to be running on fumes as well, so we'll have to see. But anyway, interesting to see all that. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.